thank you so much for joining us for this workshop today on building critical thinking skills through peer assessment. We are joined by Professor Alexis Thompson from the University of Buffalo.
I first started using Kritik several years ago, I think the year before our COVID pandemic. And the reason I chose it was I was looking for a way to be able to give a writing assignment to a very large class of 200 to 300 students and still be able to have some time to breathe, basically, in terms of correcting a written assignment from that group. Previously, I'd had the benefit of having many TAs, and that had stopped. And so I was wondering what I could do to maintain my writing assignment in this. It was an introductory class, and the whole point of the writing assignment really was to try to identify students who had writing difficulties and at the same time, give them an opportunity to write on something that would illustrate their ability to synthesize ideas and maybe apply a little critical thinking. And I heard about Kritik and I reviewed it and decided to give it a try and really found it quite interesting. For one, it did make it possible for me to conduct this writing assignment with enough time to finish by the end of the semester, grading it. And from there, I kind of moved forward. I'd say that another positive that I found out just quickly was that during COVID, it became like the best tool I had to let students interact with each other. And they sort of, in our school, desperately wanted to be able to reach out to each other under those online conditions. And I kind of expanded my use of Kritik to be something that I went to try and develop critical thinking skills along a continuum of communication skills. And so I've applied it for oral presentations, for written assignments, and more recently as a measure of looking at how they're communicating in their group activities. And so I found it in each of those cases to be really satisfying, and that the students seem to get a lot out of it. They're very interested in understanding what each other are thinking about, and they don't actually interact with each other quite as much as they used to. And so this becomes a good tool to let them see where everyone stands. For most of my classes, particularly for the written assignments, we use it, I always use it so that they can develop kind of a deeper understanding of the material. So I try to ask questions that are more conceptual, that require them to synthesize information. And I'm often always surprised at what a good job they do, because in general, they're not really ever willing to talk to me about those kinds of ideas, particularly in my big freshman courses where I don't get as much time to talk to them one-on-one. And so I think that it is a good strategy. Students have told me that because they had that interaction with me, they feel more comfortable going to other instructors and having longer conversations with them. And in large part, Kritik makes it possible for me to address a lot of people because I can, they go through their Kritik assignment where they're basically evaluating each other. And then I review all of them quickly. I'm not grading it exactly at the same time. And then what I usually do is synthesize a set of, this could have been better, this was done excellently, and to encourage some students and maybe to correct some of the behavior of other students so that they can improve. And in general, they all find that useful. And as part of that process, I can comment on the depth of the thinking that they were able to achieve. And I can highlight certain students who showed great critical thinking skills and also highlight examples where it was very basic, very factual, but could have gone a step further. It is developing soft skills. In particular, I like the one that I'm using now. I have my students they're working in groups, and every 2 weeks they have to fill out your group assessment where they're evaluating each other for the group activity. It's been really useful at helping them learn about the ways that improve group activities and group productivity. And so I'm excited about that. I think that group work is on the rise, basically, in the job market, and that'll be useful for them. Definitely saves a lot of time grading.
Yes.
But it does require,
you have big classes.
For the big classes, but even for the small classes, it does save time grading. It doesn't make it nothing, right? But it does save a lot of time grading. And it also means you have to come up with different ways to grade, to give them feedback and things like that.
With different students and with COVID as well, like so many students suffer from anxiety and they may not want to participate and put their hands up to participate in class, but with peer assessment, they are able to speak their mind without having to do that. Kind of like gives them a voice as well, right?
Whereas, typically in an in-person class under a situation like the one we use Kritik, at our school, maybe 10% of the class participates actively. The rest are either not prepared, but I think most of the time it's that they have a lot of inhibition about talking in front of their peers. And so I think this does let them do it in a way that they feel protected. because no one knows who they are, basically. But then by the end, they're like, that was fun. It's nice to know both sides. I can argue everything now. And I'm like, yeah, so it works well. And it works well. We used to do this for a number of years without Kritik, and it seemed kind of like we never got a lot of feedback about it. The Kritik really allows everyone to see what people were thinking during the debate, and I think that they enjoy that.